Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to Moscow, and welcome to another car dealership video with a little bit of a twist. This might be interesting, I think, and I want you to join me for a walk around and learn something, or at least see something that you've probably never seen before. This is the car dealership I want to take you for a walk around, and it's actually on a very large territory right here, and there is cars parked on the side of the building all the way down the street. It was actually previously a multi-car dealership, and I will point that out in a little while, where you can see which brands were actually here. And there is actually a few different businesses in this complex, but the place particularly I want to show you is called Deliservice, and it has cars for sale that are late model cars or second-hand cars, depending on how you want to describe it. There is a few of them out the front here. They always put a few out the front, don't they, to entice you in. And it might be interesting to note the Volkswagen brand on this one right here, because a little bit later in the video you're going to see a few more of them. There is this Fiat 500 right here, and I've been telling my wife she wants to get a Mini, and I've told her about this. It's actually even got the Italian stripes right on the side. But we're going to head on inside and check this out a little bit closer, and I think this might be interesting. Walking inside, it's a little bit quieter. There is a main road outside called Varshavskoye Highway, which is one of the main roads in the southeast of Moscow. So walking in, it looks like a very typical car dealership, and there's cars that are parked inside here, some of the salesmen, and it is very echoey at the same time. And most of the cars that are in this indoor part are all higher end cars, so BMW, Audi, a Mercedes, and they have all the signs on them letting you know which model it is, all the details about it, and even they've got the price if you want to take it with the repayments as well. So this looks very typical and very much like other dealerships that I've been to. Now, the actual building that it's in used to be a Renault dealership, and car dealerships in Russia are normally quite oversized, and there's a lot of space in them. And when they've changed it over to this private dealership, what they're doing now in this place, they're selling basically late model cars or second-hand cars, and mostly cars that are high mileage and with good prices and good discounts. And there are some nice, very shiny models right in the front here. I don't see a Porsche. Now, one thing that is quite unique about this place is they don't have any Chinese cars. They have only Western brands. Quite often, they refer to Chinese dealerships as Eastern branded cars. There's a few more Audis here. And then in the back, they've got a couple of other Mercedes. There's even a Nissan, another Volkswagen, and very typical car dealership. There is some nice Audis though. And what I really want to show you for this video is really outside, because this is where it really becomes something a little bit different and a little bit unique, I think, for here in Moscow. I just want to point out a couple of things. First, just in case you're watching it for one reason or another, I'm an Australian who lives here in the Moscow region. This is actually on the other side of Moscow from where I live. And there is car dealerships all over the world, and even much closer to my house. But this one's quite unique because of the fact it's selling second-hand cars or late model cars in a more traditional dealership style versus that parking lot style that you'll get around the world when it's older model cars. The video itself isn't necessarily about the price of cars. Of course, we can see a few signs with the price tags on. You can do your own translation of that or figuring out the price. But it's really to show what they're doing here and how this might be a little bit different from what you're expecting from a car dealership. Most of the dealership that I want to show you is actually outside and around the back of the building. Now, this is not a secret car dealership, and it's quite literally on this very busy main road here. The metro station is only a few minutes away, and if I pan up a little and maybe step back a little as well, you might just be able to see here the existing logo of Peugeot, of Citroën, of Opel, and then there was previously a luxury car dealership here called Grand Auto, and the building that I walked out of there was originally a Renault dealership. So all the cars that we're seeing here actually have a tag number on the rear view mirror, and then the price. So some Mercedes right here, and these are 2018 models. Now I will skip ahead a little bit, and what I want to show you is around the back. So they have got some of the, I guess, premium cars, being that they've got Mercedes and BMW parked outside. Now, the one difference with this place is they don't necessarily prepare the cars for sale. They're taking them in and selling them as is, where is, and whatever condition they're in is how you're buying them. So it's up to you to do your due diligence on the car, and you'll see quite a few of them as I walk around aren't in beautiful condition. However, the price is what people are coming here for. $650,000 for this Volkswagen Polo. Now, where do these cars come from? That's the question that's quite interesting. And here in Russia, we've got a thing called car sharing. And depending on how you're going to do that, you have an app on your phone that you set up with an account, and you connect your card for payment, and you can rent cars by the minute. And there is, I think in Moscow, about 5 different companies that you can do that through, and the app will give you the geolocation of where the car is, so it'll drop the pin where you're standing and show you the nearest car to rent. And once you've got the app set up, you can literally take it and pay for it by the minute. You can drive it as much as you like, and then you can leave it wherever you like. About 95% of Moscow, you can just park the car anywhere you want, and then you finish your rental and just pay whatever the minutes were, and that's it. And you can get them in different classes, so you can get a lower class of cars, you can get premium cars, you can get luxury cars, but quite a lot of them are these Volkswagen Polos that you see down this pathway right here. And I'm going to show you just a few more of them in a minute around the back. So this is super interesting, I think. And I think this is the first place that I've come to that's got second-hand cars for sale amongst all the videos that I've made, because a lot of people would go to car dealerships and buy a new car or a car with delivery kilometers, but these are all older cars. Now, they're not that old in terms of 10 or 20 years. Car rental companies that you know traditionally, where you do it rental by the day, keep them for so many years. They have a option for the lease of them, and then the resale of them, and they've got to end up somewhere, and this is where they are here in Moscow. I'm not sure how well this shows up on camera, and because I'm by the road here, it's very loud. This is my ride-sharing app here, and they actually have a car right across the street from this dealership and parked just nearby the highway. And this is a Haval Jolion, so one of the Chinese cars, and it tells you how many kilometers it has in terms of petrol inside, the registration number, and the rental of it is 10 rubles per minute, which works out about 12 cents a minute. And I can hop in this car and drive as much as I like, and then just get charged by the kilometer. And then quite literally I can park it safely anywhere I like in Moscow. And of course you set up the app, you attach all of your information. And what happens to these cars then, at some point in their life, they get taken off the road because they've reached a certain age or so many kilometers, or depending on how the lease agreement was with the original car dealership, they end up somewhere and they end up getting sold somehow. Now this is of course a Chinese car, but we're going to now see a lot of these parked up that are being prepared for sale. So you can see the building that we walked inside and then walked down the road from, and then they've got this gate right here where they've got cars for sale. So the original place where I walked in, the Deliservice's dealership, this is where all of their other cars are. Now there isn't just a few of them, there is hundreds of them, and we'll see quite a lot of Volkswagen cars. There is also Hyundai, I think these are Solaris models, and there is quite a lot to choose from. And like I said, these are sold as is, where is. Now you can of course start the engine, you can check them over, and depending on the car, of course, there's going to be a lot of differences in the condition of them. So you'll see here one that's got a little bit of a bump right there. So these have reached their end of life as a car rental. Now, if you're somewhere else in the world and this car sharing thing is a little confusing, think of it as a car rental like you'd get at the airport, but instead of paying by the day, you pay by the minute. So you can just use it for a short trip somewhere. So you find the nearest one to where you are, drive it somewhere, and then just leave it, and you're only paying a minimal amount. Now, I think a lot of people around the world have now got the scooters that you can rent, these electric scooters. So very similar, but just with cars. And just have a look at how many of these there are. I'll just walk down the lane here, and then I don't know if we can get an idea. Now this might not be a lot of cars. Somebody might live somewhere else where there is more cars. And the one thing that is unique here though is there is no Chinese cars. Now the actual Volkswagens that you see here were all manufactured in Russia. So the German company had a factory in Kaluga, which is in the southwest of Moscow, which is on the same train line direction as where I live. So it's a couple of hours away south of Moscow, and they had an endless car manufacturing line that made a lot of Volkswagens, and of course a lot of them were sold here in Russia, and then some were even exported to Europe and to different areas. And you'll see, it's up to you now to walk through all these cars and pick one out, and then of course pay for it and take it home. But the one thing I'm going to notice and point out to you is the condition of them. They don't get washed, they don't get prepared, they're not polishing them. all they're quite literally doing is parking them up and then selling them. Now, of course, there is a lot of the same models here because the car sharing applications generally have only the same types of cars. So it's easier for them as well to work on them, to fix or repair them, or the agreements for the servicing of them. So if you have a lot of the same, it's much easier to deal with. And also there's a lot of trust in certain brands of cars, so one over another, because basically they had a German car plant here in Russia making and producing German cars, but just in Moscow region. I know I do have some German subscribers of the channel, and of course Volkswagen as a brand is incredibly popular around the world, and it's just super interesting for me. I've been trying to find a second-hand car dealership for quite a while, and it's very hard to explain to people the concept of the video I want to make sometimes. And of course, most people tell me to go to new car dealerships. And I know these exist here in Russia. It's just a matter of finding out where they are and then coming to them like this. So you have actually quite a lot of these parked by color here. It's all of the white models. And what's interesting really is about 90% of the cars are either black or gray or dark model cars. So there is also Hyundai Solaris as well. And then with the car rental or the car sharing, the cars you can rent come in different classes. So you can also get this premium class or luxury class, and then you can rent BMWs, and I think also Mercedes are here as well. But there is quite a lot of BMWs. And again, how you see them parked like this is how you're buying them. So they're not washed or cleaned. They're not essentially checked over. Now you can quite literally just open the doors of the cars. They're not locked. You can turn them over. But quite a lot of them are not in the best of condition. Now I think for anybody famously who's rented a car before, most people don't treat it like it's their own car. You know, we want to drive it to the death. We want to drive it a little bit more aggressively. And then they basically end up like this. And then there is a dealership like this that's selling them. So you'll see quite a lot with paint damage and paint chips. Now, of course, Russian winters don't do any good justice to a car. The one thing I will say is almost every car is missing the towing eye cap. I'm not sure if that's just a Russia thing or what. There is just car after car parked up here. Now in the back, this very back corner here, there's a few Mercedes as well. Somebody's decided they like the badge a bit more than somebody else. There's another Fiat right here. Now, being that it's out the back, it's getting a bit of treatment from the leaves. So they all actually have a number on the windshield, so you can then figure out the price of them. Now, the reason people are coming here is because they're selling inexpensive cars, and cars that have got anywhere from about 100,000 kilometers to about 200,000 kilometers on them. And then what they're doing then is they're selling them much cheaper because of the condition that they're in and how they are. Maybe something is missing, something is broken, scratches, there is some kind of a damage on them. Just take a look from here. So these Mercedes, BMWs, and then endless Volkswagens. So you can actually open the cars, they're not locked, and you can have a look inside. Now generally, they're not in that bad of a condition. Now how many kilometers are on each car is going to vary quite a fair bit. This one says the battery is low, and they're not cleaned. They're literally handed over from the car rental company and then brought to this dealership and then listed for sale. I really love this little Fiat, and you can actually rent this on daily rental or by the minute as well. It's got a cigarette burn on the seat. You know, it's not that bad. I mean, there's not really much wrong with them. Actually, now I look, it's missing the trim right here. But for a cheap car and something to get you around, it's more than suitable. I'm really curious for anybody watching and who's come across this video, is this a way that they sell the cars where you live? Now, to put it into terms of how it would be in Australia, so a company like Hertz or Dollar Rental or whatever the different car rental companies are, ones that you get the cars from the airport and different places. What I understand in Australia is most of them end up at auction houses, and you can buy them from different companies where they're auctioning them, and sometimes car dealerships will buy them, particularly second-hand ones, and then a lot of them end up getting sold to the public. And here in Moscow, you can quite literally come to this place and buy one. So I guess if you think about it as a traditional daily car rental, I don't even remember some of the car rental company names, but I think you know what I mean. However, with this car sharing version of how they do it, they tend to have only 2 or 3 models of cars in the application, and then that's how you end up with hundreds of them parked here for sale. I think for anybody that would be driving by this place or even walking by, because we're close to the metro, you wouldn't even know that this is here, and you'd just see a whole lot of cars parked up and not really understand what they're doing. Of course, the main dealership is on the far end of this building, where you can walk in and then meet the salesman. And then a lot of what we're doing here, or me when I'm walking around, is just finding a car and looking, and then you go and let them know which one it is. And there's not a lot of car sale going on from the salesman. The cars are what they are, as they are, and that's it. And you pay for it and drive home. I just want to mention, and I probably should have done a little bit earlier, that I quite literally just turned up here. Actually, when I first arrived, I came in through this car park where I am now, and then only afterwards I end up realizing that the main dealership is at the other end of the building, and I spoke to a couple of the staff there. I mean, you can just walk around anywhere with a camera and film whatever you like, but I did actually ask one of the dealers in the main showroom that I was going to walk around with my camera, because it sometimes looks strange. Also, there is customers here shopping as well, and I generally just turn up somewhere, make a video, get in the train and go home. And firstly I walk around a little bit just to understand what I'm going to film and what's going on, just so that I'm not explaining anything wrongly or I'm saying anything that's too far from what I'm actually seeing. But just all these cars here, and then there is actually part of this main building, there is a couple of other companies here. So if you wanted to get your car detailed, if you want to get it wrapped or serviced, they do that as well. There's different private companies where you can bring the car to have that done. But quite simply, this is a second-hand car dealership with a little bit of a twist. So I really am curious if this is a unique way to sell the cars or not. Maybe you've seen this before, maybe you haven't. And of course, some of the cars are worse than others. This one's got a fairly big dent in the bumper. There's a Nissan here. It's missing something right there. Now, predominantly it's Volkswagens because of the car sharing company that this dealership deals through. That's why you're seeing a lot more of the same models of the cars and less variety of cars. But is this something that you can do in America, in Canada, where you can find a dealership and buy X rental cars? I think that's the best way to describe what I'm seeing. So when I open up one of these Polos right here, you can see the wear on them, you know, the seats. So they've had a good life. This one's got 192,000 kilometers on the clock. So they will keep driving and keep working. I mean, there's no problems. I mean, it's done 200,000 kilometers here in Russia. Now, it might look kind of just so superficial, and not everybody wants something like that, you know, where it's got wear and tear on it. And they just need a good wash. This one's also got a bit of damage on the door right there. It's missing one of the trims. Now, you could get all of these parts in Moscow very easily. There's more than enough parts dealerships if you wanted to find the one that's got the least amount of wear on it. We'll see a little bit of damage on the back door. I mean, how do people do this kind of damage when you're just renting it for a few minutes or a few hours at a time? I'm not sure. So if anyone can tell me that. Even the wear on the pedal right there. However, you can get yourself a German Volkswagen, of course made in Russia, for a very low price. There is actually one of the staff here going around and checking the cars, and mostly what he's doing actually is just checking the batteries, so that anyone that comes along wants to start the car or see how the engine is. So he's actually got a list on his phone of all the different models. So these are all actually licensed. So it's a matter of once you buy it to change over the ownership of it. And he's just going around to make sure that they're all in reasonable condition, or at least just to start them. And they're all ready to sell. I will put all the information about where this is in Moscow. So if you are maybe a Russian subscriber, you could come here and check this out. Now, do I recommend you buy a car? That's really up to you. In which model you buy, that's up to you. And of course, you're buying these cars quite literally on the price of the car, and then of course the condition. So there is a few people around. There is actually one of the dealers over there in the green shirt. Most people just wander around themselves. There is another gentleman over here with a lady looking at the cars as well. It's quite different, this outside area, because it's really very much help yourself, choose a car, and you're not really relying on the old school salesman. And he's got 500 or 700 of the same model, so there's not a lot to sell or to talk about with them. This has got one of the stickers here, so it was probably parked wrongly somewhere. And these are the impound stickers. When they get taken away, they put these horrible glue stickers on the cars. So when it's impounded, it's in the condition that it was parked up in. So even the ones right out the front here are not looking the best. However, you've got plenty more to choose from. So I've just walked a little bit further around the back here, and you can see how these cars start out. So you can see all the different wraps on them. So the different car sharing companies that are here in Moscow have a certain look to all of their cars and the panels on them. So what happens is the cars end up coming in here, then they get processed, and then they end up for sale. And there's a Toyota RAV4 here, Kia, possibly Sportage, I think. So there's quite a few of them parked up in quite differing conditions as well. So it depends on the car and how they are. I'm so glad that I found this place, and I find it so fascinating to walk around and to try to understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. It's really interesting at the back car park here, and some of the car sharing cars that are now coming in to be processed. So where we've seen all of the Volkswagens, Mercedes, BMW, now what's happened in the last 3 years or so is the car sharing companies had agreements to buy models of cars from certain manufacturers and then turn them into car rentals. And of course, where brands left Russia, it's left a bit of a gap in that market, and where they're changing the cars over from the existing stock, like you see the hundreds of them parked over in the distance. Now you're noticing Exceed, Omoda, Jayco. So they've got now Chinese cars as their car sharing cars. And even this isn't that old of a model, and it's already going through its life cycle and then will be on sold. Nice Kia here. But what we're seeing though is endless Volkswagens. There's a Renault right there. And this, I think, is Infinity. So it's interesting to see this shift from the brands that they had prior to 3 years ago to the brands that are now being used as the current models of car sharing cars. There's another one right here. And there's really nothing wrong with it. Peel the stickers off and you've got a perfectly good car. I've just found the very famous Moskvich car here, and this is one of the cars from the local factory in Moscow. And I did a video walking around this factory, and this ended up as a car rental as well. And now it's here to be processed and then eventually sold. And this can't be that old. It has to be less than 2 years old. So I wonder what the life cycle is for most car rental companies are around the world, because there is some relatively new models here. And this Moskvich, it has all the stickers on. Is it open? Yes. We can see inside, and they're really a nice car. I can't see what the mileage is in there. It's done 40,000 kilometers. But very nice car though. So we've reached the end of the video, and I hope you've enjoyed this walk around with me. I've tried to find somewhere a little bit quieter for the end of the video, and the back of the building right here. And I hope it was an interesting insight into a second-hand car dealership. Now, of course, back at the beginning, we saw the showroom with some of the cars. So in there, they're showing, of course, some of the premium cars, some of the ones that are higher end. And then out the back here is where people like me would come shopping to find a late model car, something a little bit more normal and everyday. And I wanted to come here for so long, or to find a place that did something like this. So if you're from Moscow or somewhere in Russia and you know that place like this exists, it would make an interesting video, I think, to go and have a walk around. I did want to get somebody on camera to talk to. However, the two different people that I met that spoke very good English. They didn't want to be on camera, and I can understand that. But there was a couple of very nice people from the dealership that I chatted with. Of course, this is an active dealership, so there is people coming and going, and their job is to sell cars, because I would think most of them are on commission based. So I don't want to get in anybody's way. I just turn up, make a video, and then walk on home. Now the secret word I'm going to use is Polo, because we saw a lot of Volkswagen Polos. So if we see that in the comments, I think it's definitely an acknowledgement that you've made it to this last minute of the video. So thanks so much. I will put all the information about it in the description. You could definitely find out about the models that they're selling and the prices. I will tell you though that the ones outside are quite cheap, relevant to buying new cars. Actually, they're really cheap because people are understanding that these are ex-rental cars. So they know they come with their imperfections. If you want to follow me on Telegram, I'll post a link to it right here. What am I doing? And then if you want to see another video on the channel, I'll find you something interesting to watch right here. Thanks everybody. I'm off on another adventure. Bye.